We'll get started in just a couple minutes. Give people a minute or two to come on. I'll answer that question. All right. People are still rolling in. Hey, Hassan. Suradina, good to see you. How are you?
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Very good. Hassan, how are you?
Good.
Good. Good to see you, man.
You too.
MashaAllah. Zahra, Zain, and Aya. MashaAllah. Sean, good to see you. Miss Aman, good to see you. All right, so let's go ahead and start. That way it doesn't get too late, so we don't end up like last time we went over a lot. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. نوينا التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء مرضات الله ووجهه وقربه وثوابه. اللهم افتح علينا بحكمتك وانشر علينا برحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. يا عليم علمنا من علمك ما ترضى به عنا ولا تؤاخذنا بما تعلمه منا. يا حليم خلقنا بخلق الحلم وحققنا بحقائق العلم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good to see everyone on this blessed day of Jumu'ah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us. One of our teachers recently, when he was talking about this situation, he said he made mention of the verse لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ, that starts off like that in Surah Al-Baqarah, that piety is not to turn towards the east or to the west, but piety is for those who believe and those who do good deeds, summarizing the verse. Those who believe and those who do good deeds and those who take care of people and those who are in the aid of others. And this is what piety really is. And I think that what we're experiencing right now and what we will be experiencing most likely, it seems, as we come into the month of Ramadan, is a new situation that sometimes becomes then a means for us to reflect. And the thing that comes to mind for me right now is a conversation that often happens with some of the elders around the issue of fasting in Ramadan when your health doesn't permit you to do so. So a person may be, maybe that they fasted their whole life. They've been fasting for 40 years, 50 years, every Ramadan they fast. And the Ramadan comes and now they have this health condition that makes it so that they shouldn't be fasting. And they start to go through all of these difficulties and internal struggles about, I really want to fast and it doesn't feel right to not be fasting. And it doesn't feel like Ramadan without fasting. And, all of those kind of internal struggles. And oftentimes the conversation that happens around that is that, look, we fast because God told us to fast. And when God tells us not to fast, we don't fast. And so in doing so, we keep our commitment to God. and rather than to anything, no matter how good or amazing that thing might be. Fasting is a great thing. Prayer is a great thing. Going to the masjid is a great thing. Spending time with good people and righteous people, being able to mix in good company, so on and so forth. All of those things are really great things. And all of them ultimately are means to the pleasure of God and means to um, doing well in our relationship with God and so on. And so they're not the goal in the end. And I feel that as this month comes upon us, it's going to be very difficult. You know, it will be difficult to not go out and pray, to be at homes with our family, to adjust to a new schedule and so on and so forth. But in the midst of all of that, in the midst of everything that we're in right now, we have to remind ourselves that we worship God. I keep thinking about how at the end of Ramadan, people often put this quote that's sometimes attributed to Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, that, or they talk about the story of when the Prophet ﷺ died, and Abu Bakr reminded the people that whoever worshipped Muhammad, then Muhammad has passed, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and whoever worshipped God, then God remains, and he's Hayyum Qayyum, he's living and he's sustaining everything in existence. And you know, people usually use that as a pun after Ramadan, that people are sad when Ramadan ends and things have changed and the fasting's not there and the community's not there and so on and so forth. And they'll often make that pun of like, you know, whoever worshipped Ramadan, then Ramadan has passed. And whoever worshipped God, then know that God is still there. And I think that this is also true for kind of the situations that we're in right now, is that whatever it was that we thought was what it meant to worship God, or what it meant to be quote unquote religious, or whatever it might be, all of that needs some level of reassessment, right? So now I'm home. Now I have Ramadan. Ramadan's around the corner. Ramadan's creeping up, and it's going to most likely be taking place in the same way the last month has taken place. And God is God, and we still worship God, and we still turn towards God, and we still seek God. And no matter which direction we face God. And no matter which action we're doing, we do that action as a means of coming closer to God. So, you know, maybe I'm not able to do as much worship this Ramadan because I can't escape my small children. Okay, I can't escape my small children. That is what it is. That's my worship then for this Ramadan, as long as I can make a good intention. Maybe I'm not going to be able to finish as much Quran as I would have finished before, but then that's something that I can adjust, right? So all of these, or maybe I'll be able to make more. You know, different people's situations are going to be different. I think, you know, this is a New Horizon Friday reflection, so probably most people are in the camp of being at home with small children, and all that that entails in terms of just juggling different things and managing different things and so on. So sometimes we end up when we get into a certain rhythm, then we end up becoming people who almost in a sense worship that rhythm. And we don't worship that rhythm or that pattern or that system that we're used to doing things upon. We worship the Lord of the heavens and the earth. And so, you know, may God help us to turn towards him in all of our affairs. The second thing before we get into the intentions and just cover a few of those is there's been a post that's been going around, and I think I made reference to it last time, but my wife was telling me something about it, I think today or yesterday, and I thought, wow, that is really an amazing point. So I wanted to share that. And that's the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says that a person who if their land is afflicted by the plague or ta'un, and maybe this can be considered from a similar category, and they do a number of things. They stay in their home. It's really amazing, actually. One of the narrations says yamkuthu fi baytihi, and the other one says yamkuthu fi baladihi. So both possibilities are covered. One narration says the person when the sickness comes to their land or their area, they stay in their home. The other one says they stay in their land, like in their town. So they stay in the town, they have patience, they seek the reward of God, and they know that nothing can afflict them except by God's leave. Then they will have the reward of the martyr. And in the commentary of that, one of the great scholars of Islam, he says that they have the reward of the martyr whether or not they get sick. And that's really the remarkable thing here, is that we can have, probably there's going to be people that we know who get sick at varying levels, and there's going to be people who don't, and there's going to be people who sit in their home for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, not seeing their relatives, not seeing their friends, limiting their interactions with the outside world, not going on doing everything that they want to do all the time, and not being afflicted by this thing in the end. And they also will have the reward of the martyr. And the interesting thing about that, I think, is that all of these other cases where someone gets the reward of the martyr or the rank of the martyr, they actually die, like maybe they drown, or they have a stomach sickness, or they're actually harmed in the defense of their property and their life and so on. But in this case, they don't. Like you actually don't even have to get sick, and you can have that rank just by believing in God and being patient, and inshallah, may Allah accept from us. So let's go to the intentions. They should be up on your screen. I believe we left off on to teach my family, or to be biased, to revive the traditions of the Prophet ﷺ by assisting my family and being playful with the young ones. So we'll continue from there. Some of them after that, it says to teach my family the rules of their religion. So and this is not necessarily like the man and lording over the house, teaching everyone in the house the rules of the religion, but it's an opportunity for all of the family to spend time doing that together. So we can learn together, we can watch some videos. I mean, subhanAllah, now there's so much stuff online, it's unbelievable. It's like, it's actually overwhelming how much stuff there is. And people who you haven't seen teaching for a long time are now teaching things you've never seen taught before, being taught. So there's plenty of opportunity to do that. And we should just try to commit to something and be consistent. To protect people from any harm. This is one of the major intentions, right? Because we're functioning on the assumption that we're afflicted with COVID-19. They say that the safest thing to do would be to assume that I have it, and I'm asymptomatic. I'm not showing any symptoms, but I do have it, and so anyone or any place that I interact with, I have the potential of leaving this virus around those places that I'm interacting with. So by limiting how much I interact with people and as much as I can, then I'm trying to protect people from any harm. And that is a great, great intention. One of the overarching principles of Islam is to remove harm, ad-darar yuzad, to remove harm. And that has it's one of these legal maxims that has implications across all different areas of the religion. So there's a lot of areas that can play out, but we're trying to protect the world and our surroundings from harm as much as we can. And then we also intend to seclude myself with God. So if I'm able, whatever I'm able to do in that regard, I try to do. That this is a time to not be distracted, and to really deal with what often comes in the silence and in the stillness. And there's a lot of things that sometimes bubble up in the course of that people are not accustomed to. And this is an opportunity to explore that. To revise the sacred knowledge that I have learned, which is revision actually is extremely, extremely important, especially as regards to religious teachings, because our religious teachings are things that we want them to be part of us. And this is why memorization was so much a part of Muslim educational history. It wasn't because they were, it wasn't because they were like not intelligent people who couldn't think critically or something like that. It was because they knew that this religious knowledge, I want it to be part of me. And if I want it to be part of me, I need to ingest it at some level. And so oftentimes memorization was part of that, so that when I memorize it, it doesn't leave me. It becomes part of how I think about things. It becomes part of how I look at things. And so a big part of that is to revise that which I've learned. Maybe I took a class in the past, or I read a book, but I only read it once, and I can go back and read it again and review it again. I can say that without doubt that although it's the most difficult thing for me to do, revision is usually the most beneficial thing for me to do. And like the most important text that we studied in Arabic grammar, for example, was a text that we spent way too long on because we were just beating it into our heads, right? So we went through like every iteration of every single passage in that text for probably a month. Like we spent a month almost only on this small little text. But at the end of it, it opened the doors for everything in that discipline of the Arabic language. So this is revision becomes very useful because it becomes something then that it becomes part of us. I also make intention to make sure that I do not make my house into a cemetery by lacking in the recitation of the Quran. So the recitation of the Quran brings life to the home. And they say in some of the hadith and stuff, it says that the home that doesn't have the recitation of the Quran in it is like a graveyard, because that aspect of its life is missing. It's not there in the same way. But when we recite the Quran in our house, when we worship in our house, when we do acts of worship in our home, then that brings life into our home. And this is kind of like our own nightlife, so to speak. You know, when the Prophet ﷺ, it talks about the Prophet ﷺ in Ramadan, that he would do ihya'ul layl, that he would bring the night to life. So our bringing the night to life is to worship, is to praise God, is to make remembrance of God, is to pray, is to serve our families, so on and so forth. All those things that they bring life. The worship especially brings life into the home. So this is also an intention that we can make in this time. And also then to assist in reducing any harm to people by staying inside, which we kind of already touched upon. So we'll keep moving from that. And then to follow the instructions of those in charge. To follow the instructions of those in charge. This is an interesting one because right now you have this phenomenon in America, right? And in other places in the world as well, where there's a lot of questions as to how much we should trust the people who are in charge. And so you hear all these kind of conspiracy theories and different ideas and so on and so forth. One of the things I think that is good about the world that we live in, and especially the country that we live in, is that even if we have doubts about one or two individuals, or even maybe like a branch of government, that doesn't take away from the entire system of the democracy that we live in, right? So like, even if I have questions about this person, well, I have all these other people who are also informing my understanding of the world that I'm living in, which is a remarkable thing, right? And part of our religion actually is that the greater emphasis is given to the benefit of the community over the benefit of the individual. And part of that is to pay attention to the orders of the people who are in charge. And someone is in a position of leadership, they're in a position of responsibility, they're the one that bears that burden. And they oftentimes know things that the rest of us don't know. And sometimes we don't always understand every single detail of what we're asked to do, but it's, you know, as long as we can understand it and it's not unreasonable and it's not leading to some sort of like oppression or harm or whatever, it's important to pay attention to those. So to follow the instructions of those in charge. We have a huge problem, you know, in California in particular. Is like, no matter any time you go to the beach, and I grew up near the beach, so I know beach people. Beach people are not going to be kept from their beach. It's like, no matter, even there was a quote that I saw that was really funny. The person saying, I think it was in the Manhattan Beach Strand, and they said, which was like where we used to spend a lot of time, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan. And this person said, even after 9/11, we didn't close the Strand. We have to get it back open. It was like the most important thing in human existence is to get that beach back open, right? So like we went for a drive the other night just to get some air, and we went by um, like Corona Del Mar area, and the place was packed. And that's a problem, right? That's a problem. And we have chaos is a problem. Order is important. Actually, Islam, uh, it's a religion that teaches us to respect order. There are times when that can be challenged or pushed back against at some level, but there is an emphasis on respecting order. So one of the intentions we can make is to follow the instructions of those in charge, and to fulfill the rights of the safety of the country and the nation. and to take from the expansiveness of the Sharia by utilizing its dispensations, which is that it's not about doing the hardest thing. It's about doing the right thing. And sometimes the right thing is actually easier. And Allah likes when Allah gives us an easier route, a dispensation, a rukhsa, and then He likes for His rukhsa to be followed, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's like, yeah, when you don't have to fast when traveling, and there's no harm against you if you don't. Like if actually Allah likes it if you don't do it, and the people in authority have determined that Salatul Jummah is not going to happen, so you don't have to feel bad about it. There's no Jummah right now, so pray Dhuhr and everything is fine, and it is what it is. So we experience the expansiveness of the Sharia by following the facilitation when there's a facilitation, or dispensation when there's a dispensation, and to make our homes face the Qibla with our prayers. I want to finish this time quickly so that we can move on to other stuff next time. To make our homes face the Qibla with our prayers. So this is of course also important, that all of us, even if we're not standing in the same place, we're all looking in the same direction. And when we stand, probably people maybe as a family might pray Dhuhr together after this reminder today. They might pray Dhuhr together, and that's a nice thing, right? And all of us are going to stand in our living rooms or in our side rooms or wherever it might be in our homes and face the Qibla and pray. And inshallah, that's a beautiful thing, to make our homes places where the denizens of the heavens gaze due to our recitation of the Quran. So the angels, they go around all the time and they look for the places wherein God is remembered. And so the gaze of the inhabitants of the heavens falls upon those places wherein God is worshipped. And so that now is our homes. And that's also a beautiful thing. To check up on our neighbors and see if they require any assistance. It's also very important. Many different groups and projects are doing good work around that. Uplift Charities, Sabil USA doing really good work on these kind of things. ICNA Relief. To revive the sunnah of imbibing the primordial nature of cleanliness and purity, so trying to be clean and pure, which are things that are part of our religion as well. And to revive the sunnah of washing the hands before food, after it, and for other actions. So all of these are things that we can intend. We could, of course, intend more. And in intending more and building upon that, we enrich our experience of whatever it is that we might be going through. And we, in doing so, also remind ourselves that when some doors are closed, other doors are opened. And by going through the exercise of thinking about the different intentions that I can have, I realized that, oh, I was focusing on that door, but look at all these ones that opened. And I'm going to make the intention, and when I make the intention, I'm opening that door, and 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 all of them become places where we can do good. Inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from us and to bless us and our families and to keep us safe. We ask Allah to protect all of those who are on the front lines in various capacities, keeping things going during these times. We ask Allah to give us sustenance that is sufficient for our families and for our loved ones, to protect our families and our loved ones, to bring us out of this better than the way that we came in. We ask Allah to make us from those who turn to Him in all of our affairs. Allahumma ameen wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. It's good to see some of the people on the video. Let me turn this off. If there's any questions or anything, feel free to put them in the box, and then we can take it from there. Or if you're sharing your screen, then I can actually even see you raise your hand if you have anything. I can see it. It's good to see the people who are sharing their screen. MashaAllah. Very good to see you. MashaAllah. It's nice. Yeah. Can you please send a recording of this? Inshallah. Please email me. Last week someone asked me for that too, and then they didn't email me. But I do have it. I do have the link for it in my email. Whoever that was last week who wanted it, you can email me, inshallah. My email is jdiwan@nhirvine.org. So the usual pattern for New Horizon emails, jdiwan@nhirvine.org. Okay, and I'll send you the link. It takes a little bit of time for them to populate it and send it, but I'll send it as soon as I get it, inshallah. Zabijan, good to see you. Haytham, where is Haytham? Haytham has a comment. Okay.
Yeah.
Tafadhal.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair, Shaykh Diwan. And may Allah bless you, protect the families and everyone on the front lines. You mentioned about the Jum'ah and you know how it's different and stuff. And I was talking to another group last night about this. And subhanallah, in our deen, and of course I'm not a scholar, but from what I know, deen is so beautiful that yes, we are missing Jum'ah, which is our center of our week, our center of our day, and Jum'ah, it's a blessed day. But the 34 other prayers that we're doing now on time with family, with more qira'ah, with more stuff is a blessing in disguise. I mean, it's really, he takes from something, but he's given us something else, subhanAllah. So I just want to share that with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, thank you. Someone said that I emailed you but haven't received your recorded talk yet. I just checked my email again and I didn't see it. If you could email me again, I apologize, and I'll send it to you, inshallah. Thank you, Haytham, for that reflection. Anyone else have anything? MashaAllah. Hassan, how is the Golden Gate Bridge? Everything is okay there? Is it windy? Very windy, huh? All right. All right. We'll see all of you when we see you, inshallah. Maybe if not next week, if not before next week, then next week, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.